Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we take you to Maplewood Station, a quiet depot where the fog hides more than the darkened tracks. And in the shadows of this sleepy Midwestern town, Detective Clara Hastings is about to uncover a mystery that will keep you listening until the very last whistle. The platform was empty, except for a lone figure leaning against a lamppost, the gaslight flickering weakly in the autumn fog. Steam hissed from the arriving train, curling in thick clouds that obscured the far end of the tracks. Clara Hastings adjusted her hat and coat against the damp chill. She had been summoned by a telegram, short, urgent, and oddly cryptic, instructing her to arrive before the midnight departure. As she stepped onto the platform, the sound of the train's wheels clattering against the rails echoed through the still night. Passengers disembarked hastily, their faces hidden beneath scarves and hats. Among them, Clara noticed a man in a dark overcoat, carrying a small wooden case, moving with a purposeful stride. There was something about the way he held himself, careful, deliberate, that caught her attention immediately. A station clerk, a young man named Henry Miller, approached her nervously. "Detective Hastings," he said, adjusting his cap, "thank you for coming so quickly. Something unusual happened tonight. The eastbound train, when it left, someone noticed something missing. Or someone missing, maybe." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Explain carefully, Henry. I'll need the facts before we speculate." Henry swallowed, glancing around the fog-laden platform. "A package. Valuable. Supposed to be on the train. Checked in at Maplewood Station. But when the conductor did a head count after departure, it was gone. And there's more. I think someone saw a figure lingering near the goods car, but by the time anyone reached it, they were gone." Clara's eyes narrowed. "A missing shipment on a nearly empty train. And someone lurking. Very well. Show me the area where it was supposed to be stored." They walked along the platform toward the freight car. The wooden planks creaked beneath their feet. Clara's mind catalogued every detail: the faint footprints in the mud, the small smudge on the metal door of the car, and the scattered leaves along the rails disturbed recently. Each clue was subtle, almost invisible to an untrained eye, yet critical. "Do you know the sender?" Clara asked. "Yes. It was a shipment from the Delaney estate," Henry replied. "Silverware, some rare coins, and a few letters of value. Not much, for most people, but significant enough to raise concern if lost." Clara's gaze swept the foggy platform, catching the distant glow of the lamplights on the far track. "Any witnesses?" Henry hesitated. "There was a porter, a Mr. Larkin. He said he saw someone, tall, hat low over their face, moving toward the freight car. But he couldn't be sure. The fog was thick, and, well, it all happened so fast." Clara nodded. "All right, Henry, make sure the station remains clear. Nobody comes or goes without my knowledge. I want a full list of passengers on that train, and the crew must remain available. There's more to this than a simple lost package." As she stepped closer to the freight car, Clara's instincts tingled. The fog seemed almost to thicken around the shadows, and the distant whistle of the train's engine was now a steady pulse in the night. Someone had used the cover of darkness and the fog to vanish with what they wanted. And Clara Hastings knew one thing for certain: the mystery was only beginning. A faint scuffling sound came from the shadows near the far end of the platform. Clara's eyes scanned the mist, and a gloved hand emerged from nowhere, holding a slip of paper with a single word. "Wait. Ladies and gentlemen, the night at Maplewood Station grows thicker, the fog heavier, and Detective Clara Hastings is about to discover that even a single word can hold a dangerous promise." Clara Hastings bent down, her gloved fingers carefully lifting the slip of paper from the platform. The word "wait" was written in elegant, looping script, almost old-fashioned, as if it had traveled from another era. She held it up to the gaslight, studying every curve and tilt of the handwriting. "What do you make of this?" Henry Miller asked, his voice trembling slightly. Clara's eyes narrowed. "Someone wants to communicate without being seen. Whoever left this knows someone is watching, or they want to be followed." A soft whistle sounded from the far tracks. A train, approaching from the east. Clara instinctively stepped back, signaling Henry to keep to the shadows. The platform seemed to shrink in the fog, the beams of the approaching locomotive cutting through the mist like knives. "Henry, check the schedule," Clara instructed. "Was anyone expected at this hour besides the eastbound?" Henry scurried to the station office and returned moments later. "No, Detective, nothing but the regular train. And the freight car we were discussing, it should have been secure, locked, checked twice." Clara's mind raced. A missing shipment, a warning note, someone lurking in the fog, and the regular train arriving almost on cue. She walked slowly along the edge of the platform, noting the faint footprints pressed into the damp ground. Some were clearly from a man's shoe, sturdy and polished, others smaller, perhaps a woman or young assistant. But the prints disappeared abruptly, as though whoever had made them had vanished into thin air. Then she noticed it, a glint at the base of a lamppost. She knelt and retrieved a small brass key. The shape was unusual, old-fashioned, ornate, not something from the station's current locks. Clara pocketed it carefully. Whoever had dropped it hadn't wanted to be caught, or perhaps they had wanted her to find it. "Detective, look!" Theodore. No, that wasn't him. This was a young porter named Larkin, emerging cautiously from the fog. "I saw someone by the freight car earlier. They had a briefcase. I tried to follow, but the fog was so thick I lost them. Then I saw the note on the ground and he trailed off, eyes wide." Clara studied him. "Did you get a good look at the person?" Larkin shook his head. "No, ma'am. Tall, dark coat, hat low, I think it was all planned. They knew the train schedule. They knew the fog would help." Clara nodded slowly, her detective instincts sharpened. "Exactly, and they may have left more than a note." She examined the platform again, noticing subtle disturbances, a patch of mud slightly darker than the rest, a small scrape along the edge of the freight car. Evidence left deliberately, but for what purpose? She pocketed the key and turned to Larkin. "Stay nearby, but don't touch anything else. I want a full report on every passenger who arrived and departed tonight. And Henry, make sure the station remains locked until I say otherwise. No one enters or leaves without my knowledge." A sudden whistle from the train echoed through the fog, sharper now, almost warning-like. Clara's eyes scanned the shadows at the far end of the platform. The figure could appear at any moment. Someone was still out there, waiting, watching, and the word "wait" was only the beginning. As the fog swirled, a shadow moved across the platform, silent, deliberate, and heading straight toward Clara. Before she could react, the figure paused and dropped a small, leather-bound journal at her feet. Clara picked it up slowly, flipping the cover to reveal a name she did not expect. Maplewood Station, Secrets Within. Ladies and gentlemen, the fog at Maplewood Station hides more than passengers tonight. Detective Clara Hastings holds a journal that promises answers, if only she can decipher its warnings before the clock strikes midnight. Clara Hastings knelt beside the journal, brushing away flecks of damp fog from its worn leather cover. The title, Maplewood Station, Secrets Within, was embossed in gold, though faded with age. She opened it carefully, revealing pages filled with neat, deliberate handwriting. Each entry seemed to detail events at the station spanning decades, from minor shipments to incidents that had vanished from official records. Her eyes scanned the first few lines. "Those who come to Maplewood at night must be watched. The tracks carry more than passengers. They carry intentions. And intentions can be deadly." Clara's brow furrowed. The person who wrote this had known something significant about the station. She flipped to a later page, where entries became more cryptic. "The eastbound at midnight is always the key. The package is never ordinary. Look for the mark of the bell on the platform. Whoever holds the key holds the truth." Her fingers went instinctively to the small brass key she had found near the lamppost. It matched the journal's instructions too perfectly to be a coincidence. Henry Miller shuffled nervously behind her. "Detective, is that journal important?" Clara glanced up. "Yes, Henry, very. Someone left it here intentionally. It's meant for us to follow, but the warnings are clear. We're not the only ones searching tonight." From the fog, a soft metallic sound echoed, the faint toll of a bell. Clara stiffened, listening carefully. It wasn't the train's whistle. It wasn't the station's old clock. It was deliberate, slow, almost like a signal. "That's no ordinary bell," Clara muttered. "Someone is communicating. Someone who knows the station better than we do." Larkin, the young porter, stepped forward. "Detective, the shadow I saw earlier. I think they've been following the bell's signal all along. It's like a code or a trail." Clara nodded, realizing the complexity of the situation. Whoever orchestrated this had planned every detail: the missing shipment, the fog, the note, and now the journal. Each element was a breadcrumb, leading her toward a truth she could not yet grasp. She turned a page and found an entry describing a hidden room beneath the station, a forgotten storage cellar accessible only through a narrow trap door hidden behind the ticket counter. The entry included an odd, swirling symbol beside it, the same shape as the emblem on the brass key. "That's it," Clara whispered. "The key isn't for a lock on the train or a box. It's for something here, in the station itself." Henry glanced nervously toward the far end of the platform. "Detective, what if someone else is down there? Could be dangerous." Clara's eyes hardened. Danger had been part of the journey from the first telegram. "Exactly why we proceed carefully. Larkin, you and Henry stay close. Watch the exits. I need to see this trap door." They made their way to the ticket counter. Clara crouched, examining the floor. There it was, a faint outline, almost invisible beneath decades of dust. The brass key fit perfectly into the hidden lock. With a soft click, the trapdoor creaked open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The air from below smelled of damp wood and coal, faintly pungent with age. Clara peered down the steps, her lantern illuminating the first few feet of shadowy descent. The journal trembled slightly in her hands. Every warning, every instruction had led to this moment. A sudden clatter echoed from the stairwell, metal striking stone. Clara's heart raced as a figure emerged from the darkness below, holding a lantern of their own. Their face was hidden beneath a hat, but their presence was unmistakable. "Detective Hastings," a voice said calmly, yet chillingly familiar. "I've been expecting you." Ladies and gentlemen, the shadows of Maplewood Station are closing in. Detective Clara Hastings now meets the stranger who has been orchestrating events from the darkness, and every secret she has uncovered will be tested. Clara's lantern flickered, casting long, jittery shadows against the rough wooden walls of the hidden cellar. The figure below held a lantern as well, its dim light revealing only a glimpse of their coat and the edge of a wide-brimmed hat. "Detective Hastings," the stranger said again, voice calm but deliberate, "you've come far, but the truth is more complicated than a missing shipment or a simple theft." Clara tightened her grip on the brass key, eyes fixed on the figure. "Who are you, and why lead me here with a journal, a note, and a bell?" The figure laughed softly. "Because, detective, you're not the only one who understands the station's secrets. I am Nathaniel Crow, and for years I've protected Maplewood Station's history. The midnight eastbound, it carries more than passengers. It carries what the town hopes to forget, and what some would kill to possess." Clara's eyes narrowed. "So the missing package, the signals, it's all part of some elaborate scheme?" "Not a scheme," Nathaniel replied. "A safeguard. That shipment contained items of historic and personal value. Letters, deeds, and records that, if misused, could damage reputations and livelihoods. I've watched over them, ensuring they never leave the station in the wrong hands." Henry stepped closer, voice quivering. "But why involve the detective? Why not just keep it hidden?" Nathaniel's gaze softened, though his eyes remained sharp. "Because someone else has been tracking these items for weeks. Someone clever, patient, and willing to manipulate anyone to get what they want. I needed someone like you to counterbalance them, someone intelligent, careful, and honorable." Clara's mind whirled. The missing shipment, the journal, the brass key, even the mysterious note, they were all part of a test of wit, courage, and judgment. Nathaniel Crow had engineered this confrontation, but had he anticipated her every move? She couldn't be sure. She studied him carefully. "And the bell?" she asked quietly. "Was it signaling the thief or signaling you?" Nathaniel tilted his head. "Both. The bell warns, the bell guides, the bell decides. Listen carefully, and it may lead you to the truth. Ignore it, and the path may lead elsewhere to danger." Clara swallowed, feeling the weight of the hidden cellar pressing in on her. The fog from above seemed to seep down the stairs, mingling with the dust and the scent of coal. Every instinct told her that this was only a fraction of the mystery. Whoever had tried to steal the shipment had been careful, deliberate, and still might be nearby, waiting for the right moment. She glanced at the journal, opened to the page describing the hidden trap door and the brass key. Every line was a breadcrumb, a warning, a guide. Yet even with all these clues, the outcome remained uncertain. Then, a faint creaking echoed above, from the stairwell that led to the platform. Clara stiffened. The station's shadows were not empty. Someone else was moving, perhaps even closer than Nathaniel suspected. Before she could react, a hand suddenly reached from the darkness above, gripping the edge of the trapdoor. Clara's heart pounded as a voice whispered, low and urgent, "Stop right there, or the truth will never leave this station alive." Ladies and gentlemen, the fog grows heavier, the shadows longer, and Detective Clara Hastings is about to face the very person who has been pulling the strings all along. At Maplewood Station, the night hides more than a missing shipment. It hides danger itself. Clara's heart raced as the hand on the trapdoor's edge tightened. She aimed her lantern upward, illuminating the figure above, just enough to reveal a tall silhouette, hat low over the eyes. The stranger froze for a moment as if realizing they had been seen, then spoke in a hushed, sharp voice. "Detective Hastings, step away from the cellar. You've seen too much already." Clara adjusted her stance. "I don't step away from a mystery, especially not one that threatens this station. Who are you?" The figure hesitated, then removed the hat slowly, revealing a familiar face. It was someone she had passed on the platform earlier, the man carrying the small wooden case. Now, in the dim lantern light, she could see his eyes, calculating and precise. "Name's Victor Mallory," he said evenly, "and I assure you, detective, this is far from a simple theft." Nathaniel Crowe, still below, stepped forward, lantern held high. "Victor, it doesn't have to end like this. We can resolve it peacefully. These artifacts aren't meant for personal gain." Victor's expression remained impassive. "They're exactly what I've been looking for. The shipment, the letters, the journals, Maplewood Station secrets belong to me. And I've been following the trail carefully, using the fog, the platform, and even the bell's signals to my advantage." Clara's mind raced. Every clue, the note, the journal, the brass key, the bell, had led to this confrontation. Victor had been orchestrating events, but Nathaniel's presence had balanced the scales. The question now was who would act faster, who would outwit the other. "Victor," Clara said calmly, "these items aren't yours to claim. You've manipulated people, the station, even the weather itself. Step back and leave the station now." Victor smiled faintly. "I admire your courage, detective, but courage alone won't win tonight. It's strategy, patience, and the willingness to do whatever it takes." The fog swirled around the platform, the bell above tolling faintly, almost as if responding to the tension below. Clara realized the tolling wasn't random. It was Victor's signal, yes, but Nathaniel had taught her how to read it. Each chime marked his movements, his intentions, a rhythm she could now follow. Henry and Larkin remained frozen, unsure whether to intervene, while Clara assessed her options. She could descend further into the cellar with Nathaniel, cutting Victor off from the shipment entirely, or confront him on the platform, risking a confrontation. Clara's gaze swept the platform, noting subtle footprints in the fog, faint smudges along the freight car, signs Victor had left intentionally. He was precise, meticulous, but not infallible. Every trap had a weakness, every plan a crack. Taking a steadying breath, Clara moved swiftly, descending the steps into the cellar, with Nathaniel at her side. The narrow passageway allowed them to approach Victor unseen. Her lantern illuminated the trapdoor above, where he remained tense, scanning the shadows. With careful precision, Clara's hand reached for the brass key in her pocket. It was time to unlock the final barrier, the one that protected the station's secrets from greed, deception, and manipulation. As she turned the key, the trapdoor began to creak open, and Victor Mallory's hand shot toward it, his expression a mix of surprise and fury. In that instant, Clara realized the true test wasn't just about recovering the shipment. It was about outsmarting a mind as cunning as her own. Ladies and gentlemen, the tension at Maplewood Station reaches a crescendo. Detective Clara Hastings descends into the hidden cellar, where shadows hold secrets, and every heartbeat could reveal the truth or danger. Clara's lantern illuminated the narrow steps as she and Nathaniel descended quickly, the brass key clutched tightly in her gloved hand. The sound of Victor Mallory's footsteps above grew louder, echoing against the wooden beams. Every creak seemed exaggerated in the stillness of the fog-laden station. "Careful, detective," Nathaniel whispered. "He knows the station like the back of his hand. One false move, and he could escape. Or worse, trigger something we're not prepared for." Clara nodded. Her mind raced, replaying every clue they had uncovered. The missing shipment, the mysterious note, the journal, and the bell. Each had been part of a puzzle, a test of patience, observation, and judgment. Victor had been using the same puzzle to mislead them, but she now realized the key advantage. The brass key wasn't just for unlocking the trap door. It was the map to the station's hidden history. At the bottom of the stairs, the cellar opened into a low, stone-lined room. Dust motes danced in the lantern light, and shelves crammed with forgotten shipments, ledgers, and crates lined the walls. Clara's eyes fell on one crate in particular, the same shipment that had gone missing from the eastbound train. Its lid was slightly ajar. "Victor must have placed it here temporarily," she murmured. "But why leave it? He could have taken it directly." Nathaniel stepped closer, examining the crate. "Perhaps he underestimated the trap. He thinks he controls the game, but the station has its own rules." Clara knelt and opened the crate fully. Inside were the letters, coins, and silverware, untouched and gleaming faintly in the lantern light. Carefully, she checked for hidden compartments or booby traps, recalling the warnings in the journal. Everything seemed exactly as it should, yet the tension in the air was palpable. A distant creak above reminded her that Victor was still on the platform. "He's watching," she whispered. "We need to secure the shipment before he makes another move." Nathaniel nodded. "There's a side passage. It leads beneath the station offices and out to the alley behind the depot. If we move carefully, we can exit without confrontation. For now, he won't expect it." Clara lifted the crates and followed Nathaniel down the narrow passage. Every step echoed softly against stone walls, and she felt the weight of decades of secrets pressing around them. The station itself seemed alive, its history whispering through the lantern light, through the shadows, even through the toll of the distant bell above. As they neared the end of the passage, a sudden sound startled Clara, a metallic clink from behind. She spun around, lantern raised. Victor's hat barely appeared in the gloom, his hand reaching toward another hidden lever on the wall. "Detective Hastings," he said, voice tight with frustration, "you think you can outsmart me? The station is mine as much as yours, and these secrets will not leave with you." Clara took a careful step forward. "Victor, the truth doesn't belong to any one person. It belongs to those who respect it, and you've only sought to exploit it." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Respect? History? That's for fools. I take what I want, and you're too late." The tension stretched, the fog seeming to press even tighter into the passageway. Clara's mind worked frantically, recalling every clue, every indication from the journal, every subtle hint of the bell's warnings. The key insight struck her. The trap wasn't just the crate was a lure, and Victor had fallen right into it. Before Victor could act, Clara yanked a hidden lever in the passage, a mechanism she had deduced from the journal's final instructions. A panel shifted, blocking his path. Victor's eyes widened in shock as he realized the cellar itself had become a trap. The question hung in the air. Would he escape, or had Maplewood Station finally claimed its own? Ladies and gentlemen, the shadows of Maplewood Station are thick with suspense. Detective Clara Hastings has activated a clever mechanism, but will it be enough to stop Victor Mallory, or has he anticipated every move? Victor's eyes widened as the panel slid into place, cutting off his escape. He stumbled backward, trying to find another exit, but the narrow cellar offered none. Clara and Nathaniel advanced cautiously, lanterns illuminating the stone walls. "Thought you could outsmart the station itself, Victor," Clara said, voice calm but resolute. "The journal, the key, even the bell, they've all led us here. It's over." Victor gritted his teeth, scanning the room for any weak point. "You may have slowed me, Hastings," he said, "but I've anticipated contingencies. The crate, the bell, the journal. All clever, yes, but only temporary." Nathaniel stepped forward, his lantern highlighting Victor's sudden shift in posture. "Temporary. The station's history doesn't lie, and neither will I allow its legacy to be stolen." Clara studied Victor, noting his meticulous, precise movements. He was careful, patient, and ruthless, a dangerous combination. Yet there was one flaw. He underestimated her knowledge of the station's hidden passages, learned from the journal, and her understanding of its mechanisms. With deliberate calm, Clara moved to the crate, examining the contents again. The letters, coins, and silverware, all historically significant, all carefully catalogued. She realized that Victor's mistake had been assuming the shipment itself was the goal. It wasn't. The goal had always been to distract from the true treasure, the station's hidden ledger, a document recording decades of secrets, scandals, and valuable transactions. Clara glanced at Nathaniel. "We need to secure the ledger before he even realizes its importance." Nathaniel nodded, disappearing into a narrow side alcove. Moments later, he returned with the small, leather-bound ledger. Its pages glimmered faintly, revealing handwritten entries dating back decades. Each page confirmed Nathaniel's role as guardian, and Victor's intrusion became a glaring threat. Victor noticed immediately. "The ledger! That's what you've been protecting all along. I should have known it wasn't the shipment that mattered." Clara held the ledger aloft. "Exactly. The station has its own rules. Only those who respect its history, understand its value, and act with integrity may possess it." Victor's eyes flickered with frustration. "You've trapped me in the cellar, Hastings, but the station isn't done with me yet. I'll find another way." Before he could finish, the faint toll of the bell above echoed through the foggy platform. Clara's heart raced. The signal was deliberate. She had learned from the journal that the bell could activate subtle mechanisms throughout the station. A soft rumble followed. Dust fell from the beams above as a hidden grate shifted beneath Victor's feet. He tried to move, but the lever he had triggered earlier caused a section of the cellar floor to tilt, gently but decisively guiding him toward the trap's containment area. A small, secure enclosure built decades ago to protect the station's most valuable items. Victor's surprise turned to resignation. "Clever," he muttered, realizing he had been outmaneuvered by both Clara and the station itself. Clara approached, her lantern casting a warm glow. "You were skilled, Victor, but Maplewood Station's secrets are protected for a reason. They aren't for greed, or ambition, or pride. You'll have time to reflect on that." Victor sat in the enclosure, the toll of the bell fading into silence above. Clara knew this wasn't just a victory. It was the culmination of decades of hidden history. Yet, as she glanced at the foggy platform, she felt the pulse of another mystery, something even the journal hadn't revealed. A shadow moved across the far end of the tracks, and the night wasn't finished with Maplewood Station yet. Ladies and gentlemen, the night at Maplewood Station is far from over. Detective Clara Hastings holds the ledger now, yet the shadows whisper of deeper secrets, some that have remained hidden for decades, waiting for the right eyes to uncover them. Clara Hastings set the leather-bound ledger carefully on a wooden crate, its surface worn from years of handling. Each page she turned revealed meticulous records, letters, shipments, and notes detailing clandestine meetings and minor scandals throughout Maplewood's past. It was a time capsule, a repository of truth that had been guarded carefully by Nathaniel Crowe and the station itself. "Detective, you must be cautious," Nathaniel warned softly. "The ledger's secrets are powerful, but they can be misinterpreted. Some entries involve families who still live in this town. Misreading history could have real consequences." Clara nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility. "I'll handle it carefully. But Nathaniel, something tells me there's more. The journal led me here, the bell led me here, and even Victor's actions seem to point toward something bigger." Nathaniel's gaze flickered toward the crate holding the shipment. "You're perceptive. There is one final secret, one the journal hinted at but did not reveal. A hidden room beneath the station offices, accessed through a narrow panel in the back wall. It was used by station managers for decades to safeguard the ledger's most sensitive contents. Only someone who truly understands the station can find it." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we go. Victor may have been after the shipment, but the ledger, the true secret, lies deeper." Carefully, she examined the rear wall of the cellar. Nathaniel guided her fingers along the wooden panels until they found a subtle indentation, a keyhole shaped precisely like the brass key she had recovered earlier. She slid the key into the lock. With a soft click, the panel shifted open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into complete darkness. Stay close, Clara said, her voice firm. This may be dangerous, but it's the last step. They descended, the smell of old wood and dust growing stronger with each step. At the bottom they entered a small, stone-lined room, lit only by a single lantern suspended from the ceiling. In the center was a second, smaller ledger, bound in red leather, with initials embossed in gold, M.W.S. Clara lifted the ledger gently, brushing her fingers across the pages. The entries revealed a secret network of communications, lost letters, and transactions that tied key families in Maplewood to decades of events. Nathaniel had been guarding not only history, but the balance of the town's memory itself. Everything Victor sought, Clara murmured, flipping through the pages, was only part of the puzzle. The true secret is this ledger, its history, identity, and legacy all in one. Nathaniel stepped closer. Yes, and it is only preserved because someone with integrity stands watch. That is why you were guided here. A faint sound interrupted their quiet, the distant echo of the station bell, once again tolling with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. Clara froze, listening carefully. Something about the toll seemed different this time, deliberate. From the shadows of the hidden room, a soft creak echoed. Clara turned, and there, emerging from the corner, was a figure she did not expect. The hood of a long coat concealed most of their face, but the eyes held recognition and a warning. Detective Hastings. A familiar voice whispered, "You found the ledger, but not all secrets are meant to leave this station." Ladies and gentlemen, the night at Maplewood Station is far from over. Detective Clara Hastings holds the ledger now, yet the shadows whisper of deeper secrets, some that have remained hidden for decades, waiting for the right eyes to uncover them. Clara Hastings set the leather-bound ledger carefully on a wooden crate, its surface worn from years of handling. Each page she turned revealed meticulous records, letters, shipments, and notes detailing clandestine meetings and minor scandals throughout Maplewood's past. It was a time capsule, a repository of truth that had been guarded carefully by Nathaniel Crowe and the station itself. "Detective, you must be cautious," Nathaniel warned softly. "The ledger's secrets are powerful, but they can be misinterpreted. Some entries involve families who still live in this town. Misreading history could have real consequences." Clara nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility. "I'll handle it carefully. But Nathaniel, something tells me there's more. The journal led me here, the bell led me here, and even Victor's actions seem to point toward something bigger." Nathaniel's gaze flickered toward the crate holding the shipment. "You're perceptive. There is one final secret, one the journal hinted at but did not reveal. A hidden room beneath the station offices, accessed through a narrow panel in the back wall. It was used by station managers for decades to safeguard the ledger's most sensitive contents. Only someone who truly understands the station can find it." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we go. Victor may have been after the shipment, but the ledger, the true secret, lies deeper." Carefully, she examined the rear wall of the cellar. Nathaniel guided her fingers along the wooden panels until they found a subtle indentation, a keyhole shaped precisely like the brass key she had recovered earlier. She slid the key into the lock. With a soft click, the panel shifted open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into complete darkness. "Stay close," Clara said, her voice firm. "This may be dangerous, but it's the last step." They descended, the smell of old wood and dust growing stronger with each step. At the bottom they entered a small, stone-lined room, lit only by a single lantern suspended from the ceiling. In the center was a second, smaller ledger, bound in red leather, with initials embossed in gold, M.W.S. Clara lifted the ledger gently, brushing her fingers across the pages. The entries revealed a secret network of communications, lost letters, and transactions that tied key families in Maplewood to decades of events. Nathaniel had been guarding not only history, but the balance of the town's memory itself. Everything Victor sought, Clara murmured, flipping through the pages, was only part of the puzzle. The true secret is this ledger, its history, identity, and legacy all in one. Nathaniel stepped closer. "Yes, and it is only preserved because someone with integrity stands watch. That is why you were guided here. A faint sound interrupted their quiet, the distant echo of the station bell, once again tolling with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. Clara froze, listening carefully. Something about the toll seemed different this time, deliberate. From the shadows of the hidden room, a soft creak echoed. Clara turned, and there, emerging from the corner, was a figure she did not expect. The hood of a long coat concealed most of their face, but the eyes held recognition and a warning. Detective Hastings. A familiar voice whispered, "You found the ledger, but not all secrets are meant to leave this station." Ladies and gentlemen, the night at Maplewood Station reaches its final hour. Detective Clara Hastings now faces the culmination of decades of secrecy, and the station itself has one last lesson to impart. Clara Hastings stepped carefully onto the platform, the red ledger tucked securely under her arm. Nathaniel Crowe followed, lanterns in hand, casting a warm glow against the fog that still clung to the rails. Margaret Delaney remained in the cellar, her figure framed by the shadows, eyes watchful and approving. The platform was silent except for the distant clatter of a departing freight train and the low tolling of the station bell. Clara paused, absorbing the moment. The night had tested patience, perception, and judgment, and the ledger had revealed the weight of responsibility that came with knowledge. Henry Miller and Larkin, the young station attendants, hovered near the edges of the platform, anxious but relieved. "Detective," Henry said softly, "what will happen now?" Clara looked at him with a calm, steady gaze. "The ledger stays here. Maplewood Station is its guardian, and its purpose is to preserve history, not expose it recklessly. What we've done tonight is ensure it remains safe. That is the legacy we protect." Nathaniel stepped forward. "Victor Mallory will learn the lesson as well. His ambition nearly cost him, and the station itself has ensured he cannot misuse what he sought." Clara nodded. The shadow of Victor's failed attempt still lingered in her mind. He had been clever, meticulous, and persistent, yet the station's design, combined with careful observation, had thwarted him. The ledger had been the true test, revealing character more than cleverness. Margaret's voice floated up from the cellar. "Well done, Detective Hastings. You've proven worthy, not because you captured Victor or discovered hidden rooms, but because you understood the purpose of the ledger. That is the true measure of wisdom." Clara glanced at the foggy platform, the bell above now quieting, its final echoes lingering like a heartbeat. She realized that the ledger was not just a record of events. It was a guide to integrity, a chronicle of caution, and a reminder that some truths are meant to be handled with care. She returned to the cellar, placing the red ledger back in its hidden chamber, the brass key clicking softly as she secured it. Nathaniel and Margaret watched, shadows lengthening in the lantern light. Every mechanism, every hidden panel, every bell toll had led to this moment. The station's legacy was intact. As they emerged from the cellar, the fog parted slightly, revealing the familiar outline of the Maplewood Station sign, warm under the lantern glow. Clara inhaled the crisp night air, sensing that the station itself seemed satisfied. Its secrets were safe, yet alive, waiting for those who could respect them. Margaret spoke softly, a note of finality in her voice. "Remember this, detective. Not all mysteries are solved by discovery alone. Some are solved by wisdom, patience, and the courage to do what is right, even when temptation is near." Clara nodded, feeling the weight and clarity of the lesson. She had faced deception, temptation, and danger, yet she had emerged with a deeper understanding of duty and honor. Maplewood Station had tested her, and she had passed. Victor Mallory was gone, foiled but alive, his ambition checked by the ingenuity of the station and the keen mind of Detective Hastings. The shipment was intact, the ledger preserved, and the night's events became a story to be remembered, not exploited. As Clara Hastings walked down the foggy platform one last time, the lantern light reflected off the rails. Somewhere above, the station bell rang softly, not as a warning, but as a quiet acknowledgement. Maplewood Station had kept its secrets, and in doing so, reminded all who entered that wisdom, courage, and integrity are treasures far greater than gold. The end.